What's up guys, my name is Rylan and today we're going to be taking an in-depth look as well as a test drive of this 2020 BMW X2. Now right off the bat I want to cover, if you're in the market for an X1 but you're thinking about getting an X2, I'm just going to cut right to it. The X1 is more practical, the X2 is for the most part, for most people's likings, more stylish. So that's basically the difference. Other than that, these cars share the same platform and are similar in almost every single way. So first things first, let's go ahead and get all the specifications out of the way. Not all the specifications, but the specifications that matter the most. For instance, this car starts at $36,200, and as equipped in this model, it's got the M Sport package, got the premium package, got moonroof features, just a couple different like Harman Kardon system in this thing. That will bring the price well over the $40,000 mark. So this car behind me is looking at $46,000. So yes, that is a $10,000 price increase from the base model vehicle. Now there's three different powertrains with this BMW X2. The one behind me is the base level powertrain. This is the Sdrive28i, which is a front wheel drive 4-cylinder. It's an inline 4 turbocharged engine. Now above that is the X28i. And that essentially is just the all-wheel drive version of this vehicle. And the granddaddy of them all is the M35i, which is all-wheel drive as well. However, the engine has been tuned to produce more power. That's putting out about 300 horsepower and 340 pound-feet of torque compared to this version's 236 horsepower and 256 pound-feet of torque. So definitely a substantial increase. Now when we're talking about gas mileage, this Sdrive28i behind me comes in at 24 city and 32 on the highway, whereas the M35i model comes in at 22 city and 30 on the highway. Now moving on from the specs and jumping into the exterior look of this vehicle, we're gonna start off from the side profile. And right off the bat, first thing that catches my eye personally as a slight BMW fanboy is this BMW roundel on the side of the vehicle. Now typically those are only reserved for very, very special cars, such as the BMW M1 from the 1980s. Now moving on from that, you get these optional 19-inch rims, double spoke, and this comes standard if you get the M Sport package, which is a $4,600 upgrade on this vehicle. Basically all aesthetics besides a sportier transmission. At least that's what BMW says on their site. However, the M Sport package is definitely focused on styling, but what I've noticed on the BMW configuring website, if you choose to get the M Sport package, which makes the car looks heaps better in my point of view, then it brings the cost. You get the convenience package for free, which adds a lot of features that I'll be going into, which this car has, but it also brings down the price of the premium package from $3,800 to $1,400. Now another thing you get with the M Sport package, or if you opt for no M Sport package and the convenience package, is keyless entry. And yeah, it's pretty simple stuff. You just tap right here if you want to lock the door, and you just put your hand right there and it unlocks. Moving on to the front of the vehicle, and the first thing that stands out to me on the front, well, of course, is these nice little kidney grills. And to me, on this X2, I think the kidney grills proportionally are absolutely perfect. They're the right size. And this again has the M Sport package, so you get this aggressive front fascia with this mesh grille, and it's just super nice looking. It's the right amount of aggressive without being too ostentatious, which I really appreciate. And then moving on from there, and you get these LED headlights, and they're super bright. They actually move with the steering wheel, so if you're going around a tight corner, then the lights will follow whatever input you put on the steering wheel. It has automatic high beams, which I believe is standard even on the base model. Basically what that means, if there's a vehicle in the opposing lane, then the headlights, your brights will turn off automatically, and then they'll turn back on immediately after there's no other vehicles in the opposing lane. Taking a look at the back end, and yes, this is my favorite side of this vehicle. And the reason why is because the appearance, thanks to this little swept design right here, basically makes the car look like it has massive fender flares, which I am a huge fan of. So you get this nice wide hips back here, which I really love. And of course, this car does have that M Sport package, which adds the appearance. You get these nice little aggressive inserts and just a little bit more angles going on. Moving on from there, and you get these nice LED taillights, which has that swept back look as well. BMW does do a really good job at headlights and taillights now with their new generations of vehicles. Actually, they always have. They invented the halo eyes, and those are absolutely beautiful. You know, the little BMWs with the rings, the daytime running lights? Yeah, I know you know. Anyways, moving on from there, and you get your rear windshield wiper, pretty standard stuff on a crossover. And then you get these chrome tipped exhaust ports with a little bit of trickery going on. So basically there's little baffles that open and close on the inside of the exhaust. And so when you're cruising around in comfort mode and you don't want to hear the engine, one of these baffles will be closed. The last thing I want to point out is this BMW little badge on the back. It is really cool because it actually doubles up as the trunk release button. So basically you push down on the top of it and it pops right up. Even the base model has the power lift gate, which is really nice. Okay, so upon opening the trunk, you do get a lot of space here. Well, I shouldn't say a lot, but it is adequate. You know, you definitely can fit 3-4 large luggage bags back here. Fits golf clubs, not the best. I have a golf bag, and you kind of got to wedge it in there just right. Obviously, you can fold down the seats and you can fit many more if you're into golfing or getting groceries, whatever it is. So there is definitely adequate space back here. And then you get this nice cover that comes up when the power lift gate opens, which is really nice to hide all your valuables. And below the trunk, or the cargo area I should say, is another trunk, and this holds quite a lot of space as well. And what I really like about the X2 is it has this nice brushed aluminum finish on the trunk opening, and this is standard on all the models of the X2. Just got nailed in the face by a fly. I'm good though, I'm good. No damage taken. Alright, now getting out of the direct heat and getting away from the bugs, just kidding, they already swarmed into the... Get out of here, you rascal. Go! Go! Out! 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 Anyways, me and my flies are having our moment. Don't mind us. Now jumping into the interior, and the first thing I want to talk about are these seats. The seats themselves are very comfortable, they're supportive, but as far as BMW seats go, they are a little bit more on the firm side than you would get in a BMW 3 Series per se. Now what I've noticed that the seats do have little holes cut out into them. However, there's no ventilated seat option for the X2, which is kind of sad. But with the premium package, what this vehicle has, or the M Sport package, you do get heated front seats. So yes, they do get hot. Another optional feature that this vehicle has, which brings the price up an extra $10,000 over the base model, is the fact that this has the real leather Dakota seats, and you can tell that it's real leather. Just obviously by the feel, it does feel a little bit more premium than the Syntac leather, but honestly the Syntac leather holds its own, and it is smooth and it does feel nice, it does look nice. The way I can tell immediately that these seats are the real leather is the fact that it has contrast stitching. For $1,400 more, you get the real leather seats. Is it worth it? It depends. Do you want the contrast stitching? Do you want that feel of real leather, which is not far off of the Syntac leather that BMW uses? Two last features of the seats I want to go over just briefly is the fact that they have little thigh extenders on the two front seats. This is typical for BMW, and it is nice during long road trips. And you can adjust the lumbar on both of these seats, which is really nice, and the side bolstering can inflate or deflate at the touch of a button. So if you did want a little bit more side bolstering, say you're bringing this to a track, I guess. Now moving on from the seats and taking a look at the entirety of the dashboard. Now the center control stack, it's very typical BMW. However, for the X2, it is a little bit more smushed in than something you'd get on the 3 Series, which all the controls are just a little bit more spread apart. The center control stack still does look nice, and it's lined in typical piano black trim. You can get several other trim levels. This is by far the most popular. It's got dual climate zones, of course. Everything is very simplistic to use. Moving up from there, you get an 8.8-inch touchscreen. You only used to get it when you got the M Sport package or the premium package of the X2, say for 2019. However, all trim levels now come equipped with an 8.8-inch touchscreen instead of the 6.6 or 6.5-inch version. And that's basically the only change from 2019 to 2020 is the fact that you do get the standard 8.8-inch touchscreen. The reason for that is the X2 has been around not very long at all. It started in like mid to end 2018. So this is still a very new car. Now, as far as the infotainment system goes, I'm only going to touch very briefly on it. This infotainment system is extremely easy to use. You get the iDrive controller, or it is touchscreen now, which is really nice. So you get 2 options of working the display. I personally will use the iDrive controller. I'm accustomed to it. I've been using them for several years now, and they're very simplistic to use. You got the up-down functionality, you got the scroll wheel, and you can actually write on the iDrive controller itself when you want to type something in. There's a couple main tabs that you have. You get the media and radio. So basically, if you want to connect your phone to Bluetooth, then you can do it that way, or you want to listen to HD radio. Both of those features, Bluetooth and HD radio, come equipped as standard on the X2. Now moving on from the other tab, and you get your communication tab. Very simplistic. You can check your messages. You can see your phone logs from there as well. So your received calls, your missed calls. You can dial someone from the communication tab, so on and so forth. Pretty self-explanatory. Now the navigation is really great. You get real-time traffic information. Very simplistic to use. And as I mentioned on my X3 video, this navigation system is extremely fast now. So you can do voice inputs for addresses. Usually you can't do that on navigation systems in vehicles for whatever reason. But this thing, if you wanted, for instance, let me just hypothetically put in an example. So 777 West Side Drive, San Diego. For instance, I can say it just like that, speak to the system, and it'll pick up like that and already route me there, instead of having to fumble around with the iDrive system or the touchscreen and input stuff manually. So finally, the system is faster than just pulling out your phone, and the arrow, when you're actually navigating somewhere, it moves basically in real speed. There's like no lag at all, and if you're going 60 miles an hour, the arrow on the screen actually looks like it's going 60 miles an hour. Moving on from there, you get your connected drive, which is basically BMW's concierge service, as well as if you wanted to pull up the internet. You have access, I think, for a year when you get the premium package. Moving on from connected drive, you have your My Vehicle tab, which shows your driving efficiency, you know, what MPG you're getting. You can adjust everything from there. That's basically the settings menu for the entire car. So if you wanted to adjust the lighting, this has ambient lighting equipped. So basically there's LED strips all over the cabin, and at night it looks really, really cool. You can change the LED strips to, I think there's like 14 colors that come on this car, from all the way from bronze to lilac. Also, you can monitor your tire PSI from this tab, as well as your tire temperature. So right down to each individual tire. Now this car does come equipped with Apple CarPlay as standard on all trim levels, which is really nice. Unfortunately, I can't show you any of the Apple CarPlay functionality because I do not have an iPhone. I have an Android, and it is a sad day. Let me tell you, this car does not have Android Auto yet. So pretty ridiculous. BMW, step it up. a lot of your market does have Android phones. A lot of people are moving away from iPhones and getting more into the Android ecosystem just because there's more options, there's more bang for buck. Moving on from there though, and definitely the highlight of this interior, the front of this interior for me, is this 3-spoke steering wheel. This is the M steering wheel that comes equipped if you get the M35i version power plant of this vehicle, or if you get the M trim level, the M Sport trim level. And they've been using this steering wheel since, I want to say, like 2013, 2014 now. It is sublime. Basically, they've changed it up a little bit and they've added a little bit softer leather and less shiny leather than they did back in like 2015, 2016 era. Now, as far as the steering wheel buttons, you get your regular standard stuff, you know, volume up and down, scrolling through stations, and voice communication, as well as the call button. And then you have cruise control on the left side. This car does have an option to come with radar cruise control. However, I think it's like $1,500, and this vehicle doesn't have it. I don't see a need for it, honestly. You do have rain sensing windshield wipers and automatic headlights, as I mentioned before. And then just beyond that, you do get a full electronic digital gauge cluster. BMWs are completely going down this route for all their vehicles, and it looks really, really nice, and it does show important information. This car comes equipped with an optional, and you get this with the premium package, heads-up display, and it is sublime. I wish more cars went with heads-up displays because you never have to take your eyes off the road. BMW does such a good job with the heads-up display. It's so easy to read, even in direct sunlight. If you have navigation activated, then it'll show you your navigation and where you need to turn on the heads-up display itself, or controlling the radio, changing through stations, whatnot. It displays that as well. It's super cool. And then one of the safety features that is standard with this vehicle, well, there's a few, I might add. One is front collision warning, and it actually shows if you're getting too close to a car, it doesn't think you can stop in time. There's this big image of a car that just shows up on the heads-up display. It's in like bright red, and it's just like, dang, maybe I should brake. Yeah, that is a standard feature as well. This car will brake for you at low speeds if it doesn't think you're gonna brake. Now, as far as other safety features, you do get lane departure warning, so basically keeps you in your lane, and that's standard. However, there's no blind spot monitoring system as standard. As far as safety as a whole, this is IIHS top safety pick, so it earned a 5-star, complete 5-star rating. That's for the 2019. The 2020 hasn't been tested, but it's essentially the same exact car, apart from the 8.8-inch touchscreen. Now, taking a look at the door panels themselves, as I mentioned before, you get these LED light strips, which are really, really nice, especially in the night. Just gives a whole new level of ambiance to the cabin. Moving on from there, you get soft touch material on the top part of the armrest, so to speak, and the main part of the armrest is even softer material. It's this nice leather, and you get contrast stitching on the panel itself. This is also soft touch leather, really nice. And unfortunately, usually BMWs, the trim from the dashboard and the door panel carries over to this door handle itself. This, however, has hard plastic instead. Now, moving on from there and taking a look at the center console, I'm going to start us off with the one thing that I just do not like about this vehicle, that makes it, in my eyes, look like the cheaper end of the BMW lineup, and that is this traditional gear shifter. And it is by all means traditional. It looks like something straight out of a Volkswagen Golf, and I'm very surprised, to be honest, that BMW put in a traditional gear shifter. Usually they go with these sleek little futuristic gear shifters that are about like yay high. And moving on from there, and you get your 3 different driving modes to toggle through those. So you get Sport, Comfort, and Eco Pro. Eco Pro basically cuts back on the throttle response substantially, so acceleration is just grueling. It is very, very slow unless you really bite down into the pedal. This is all in the name to save gas, and it does a pretty good job at doing that. Now, comfort mode is where the car always sits. It's a nice balance. But from there, you get your sport mode, which is my favorite on all BMW models because it tightens up the steering rack a bit. So the steering is a little bit stiffer, basically more like the old hydraulic steering that BMW used to come with. And then the throttle response becomes a lot sharper. You only have to get on the gas a little bit for that turbo to engage, and you get a nice acceleration. And then if you have adaptive suspension, which is a $400 option on this vehicle, which is basically its sport suspension, the dampenings will be hardened. They'll be a little bit stiffer, so basically you will get a tiny bit less body roll. However, this does not have the adaptive suspension on this model. Now, moving past those buttons, and you get your park distance control button, which essentially this vehicle, as standard, comes with a rear view camera as well as parking sensors around the vehicle. If you wanted to shut those off, say that beeping is really annoying and you know what you're doing, you know how to get out of the spot, you know you're not going to hit anything, boom, you can press that button and you're A+, good to go. Moving on from there, you get your electronic parking brake. And the industry is going towards these in dramatic fashion. Pretty much all SUVs nowadays have an electronic parking brake. I am old-fashioned. Even though I just made a huge deal about the traditional gear shift lever, I happen to like a traditional parking brake. Just in case you want to get a little squirrely on a rainy day, I don't know. One thing that I have noticed about the electronic parking brake is there's no auto hold feature, which is very surprising. Most electronic parking brakes nowadays, especially in this price range, have an auto hold feature. Now, moving on from all the buttons and looking solely at storage in the center console, and you get a nice little cubby right here with a USB port and a standard 12-volt outlet. This cubby is good for holding a wallet, some keys, whatnot, maybe a little more than that. You get 2 cup holders, and then the armrest actually moves over and you get a good amount of storage, I say. Good enough for about like 2 water bottles, nothing big. And recessed in this little compartment is a fast charging port, and the armrest itself also doubles up with some storage. Now, taking a brief look at the back seats of this vehicle, and you know what, the seats sit you up pretty upright. There's really no bolstering going on. As far as headspace, you know, I got, again, I'm 5'10" and I got like an inch of headspace. So this is the compromise you get on the X2 compared to the X1. Thanks to that sleek swept-back look, the headspace suffers in the rear, and that can be said also with the leg space. This is basically a neutral seating position. Maybe not neutral, maybe a little bit further back, but I basically have no leg space whatsoever. My knees are touching the back of the seats. There is this indent cut out in the back of the seats themselves for your legs, or you can go ahead and like sit, to some of you people, you know, the mansplaining, I don't know if you got a problem with that, hopefully you don't, but if you mansplain, then you got a little bit more leg room. You do get an armrest with flip out cup holders and 2 air conditioning vents, as well as 2 fast charging ports. Another thing that I appreciate while sitting back here is the panoramic sunroof. I think, you know, if you plan on having a lot of people in the back seats of this vehicle, just because the design compromises the headspace, the panoramic sunroof, while it doesn't extend fully to, you know, where your head is, it is there enough to where you don't feel as claustrophobic. Getting this 2020 BMW X2 out on the road. Now, we're on some back roads right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this thing into sport mode and see what she's about. Instantly I can hear the baffle open up in the exhaust. There's a little bit more sound piped into the cabin. Hopefully that's not artificial sound coming from the speakers, but there's some sound for sure. So I got no one really behind me. We're going like 10 miles an hour. I'm gonna give it all she's got. Let's go. Here we go. Okay, there's slight turbo lag, but super slight, and yeah, she pulls. It's not like the most eventful experience, but she definitely gets up and goes. It's just weird to me that I'm driving a BMW that is front wheel drive steering, and you can't guess it going around corners unless you're going really, really fast. Then you can tell that it's front wheel drive, but you can notice it when you get on the gas. When you get on the accelerator all the way, you get a little bit of torque steer, and it's very, very minute. But I've driven a lot of BMWs in my lifetime, and you never get any torque steer, obviously, because they're always usually rear wheel drive or all wheel drive. I just love this heads up display telling me the speed limit on the road and how fast I'm going, and usually that's always faster than the speed limit on the road. But any cops watching out there, I'm completely kidding. Look me dead in the eyes, I am kidding. And no, I'm not looking into a camera while I'm driving. That would be irresponsible of me. Please. Now, this car has all-season run flats, so if you did want a little bit smoother ride, not to say the ride isn't smooth, it's actually pretty smooth, apart from when you hit a pothole on the road. Since the suspension is definitely on the firm side because of the sporty characteristics of this vehicle, it does upset the cabin a little bit. And I've found out too, if you're going high speeds and there's a pothole and you're kind of turning, the car kind of wants to jump. So be aware of that. I'm trying to show you guys some corner action, okay? I know you guys like to see that, but we got slow people in front of me. I mean, come on, when you're on the canyon roads, do you really want to do the speed limit or under the speed limit? Come on. Where's the joy? Where's the happiness to be alive? Come on, have some fun, huck it. Just like every BMW, the steering is just nice and tight, and it's so direct. Definitely makes this car feel more like a sports car than it really is. So the vehicle's in its sportiest settings, sport mode, sports transmission, come to a dead stop. Let's give it one more pull, yeah? Let's go, here we go. How much torque steer are we gonna get? There's a little blip of the throttle you get. It's probably coming from the speakers, but man, it sounds nice. Oh yeah, she's pushing it. Going around this corner with some serious speed. It's definitely zippy. It'll put a smile on your face when you floor it, especially on the back roads, 100%. And that transmission, that ZF gearbox, I don't know if they've updated it with the M Sport model compared to the regular X2, but it bangs off shifts, it holds shifts like no other. The throttle response, the way it delivers power, it is all silky smooth, and that is a trademark of BMW. It's been a trademark on the inline 6 version of BMW's engines since the dawn of time, but it is now a trademark on the 4-cylinder variant. Alright guys, well, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up here. I definitely enjoyed the X2 more than I thought I was. You know, I'm not really into crossovers that much, but this is kind of the jack of all trades. You get that performance-oriented vehicle. It is zippy and it is pretty fun on the back roads. The moral of the story, this car wants to go faster than it actually can. So just be careful out there for sure. But you know, you still get practicality. You can take it to the beach, off-road. It drives smooth. It's insulated. Sound deadening is not the best, but it is still pretty good. The ride is on the firm side, but it is still good. If you're going solely for a more practical car and you want an entry-level BMW, a crossover, go for the X1. It's got a boxier design. You know, it's not as sleek as this, but this is more tailored to the person who wants just a little bit more styling than the X1 and maybe a little bit more performance, because this one has, as I mentioned before, the M35i variant, and the X1 does not have a variant that has over 300 horsepower. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, as I said before, and as always guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.